The small town looked peaceful from the outside, but inside many homes were stories of pain and survival. Among the narrow streets stood a small broken house made of old wood and cracked bricks. That house belonged to Armin, a poor father who lived there with his little daughter, Amina. Armin had once lived a better life. Years ago, he worked in a factory that made tools and machines. Every morning he used to leave with a smile, and every evening he came back with food for his family. But time had changed everything. The factory closed suddenly, and many men like him were left without work. Day by day he tried to find jobs, but most of the time people said no. He accepted small tasks, sometimes carrying goods, sometimes fixing broken things, sometimes cleaning. But the money he earned was never enough. Amina was his only light in this dark life. She was only 8 years old, but she carried a heart much bigger than her age. She never asked for toys or fancy clothes. She never cried for sweets or new shoes. All she wanted was her father's smile, and all she gave was her love. Their house was small with only 2 rooms. The roof leaked when it rained, and the walls had lines of cracks. The floor was cold, and sometimes rats ran across it at night. Still, Amina called it home. She would often say, "Baba, this is the best house in the world because it is ours." Her words always gave Arman a small comfort. But hunger was a guest that never left their door. Many nights Arman went to sleep with an empty stomach, pretending that he was not hungry so that his daughter would eat. He would say, "I already ate outside, Amina. You finish the food." But the truth was different. He could not afford food for both of them. Amina, though young, understood her father's lies. She saw the tiredness in his eyes. She saw how his hands were rough and cut from work. She noticed how his clothes were getting older and older, but she never said anything. She only tried to smile and give him courage. One cold evening, Armin sat at the small table, trying to repair his worn-out shoes. The candle on the table was burning weak, and the flame danced every time the wind touched it through the cracks in the wall. His fingers worked slowly and his face showed worry. Tomorrow he had no promise of work, and he did not know what he would feed Amina. Suddenly he heard footsteps rushing toward the house. The wooden door opened quickly and little Amina ran inside. Her eyes were red and her cheeks were wet with tears. She was breathing fast and her small hands held her father's shirt tightly. "Baba!" she cried in a broken voice. "Please follow me home." Arman was shocked. He stood up quickly, his heart beating fast. He knelt down to face her. "What happened, Amina? Why are you crying? Tell me, my child," but Amina shook her head. Her lips trembled and more tears fell. She only repeated, "Please, Baba, come with me now. You must see. Don't be angry, just come." Her words made his chest heavy. He felt fear, confusion, and worry all at once. He placed his rough hand on her small head and whispered, "All right, my little one. I will come. Show me what it is." She held his hand tightly, and together they stepped out into the dark street. The town was quiet, with only the sound of dogs barking far away, and the wind moving the dry leaves on the ground. Amina walked fast, pulling her father along. As they walked, Arman thought deeply. Why was his little girl crying like this? What could she be hiding?
He had always tried to protect her from pain.
But now it seemed she was the one carrying a secret. The path they walked was familiar, yet tonight it felt heavy with silence. The moon above was thin and the stars seemed to hide behind clouds. Arman noticed that Amina's steps were quick but nervous. She kept looking down, afraid to meet his eyes. Finally, they reached their small house again. The door was half open, swinging gently with the wind. Amina let go of his hand and whispered, "Please don't be upset, Baba. I only wanted to help." Arman felt his throat tighten. He did not yet know what she meant, but the fear in her voice made him weak inside. He stepped inside the house, and what he saw stopped him where he stood. On the old wooden table, where usually there was nothing but an empty plate, today lay a small bowl of soup and pieces of bread. The smell was warm and gentle, but that was not what broke him. What broke his heart were the muddy shoes placed in the corner, and the small hands of his daughter, red and swollen from cold. It was clear. His little girl had been working outside to bring food. Arman felt his chest ache, as if someone had pressed a heavy stone on it. Tears filled his eyes, but he held them back. He turned to his daughter, who stood quietly looking down at the floor. "Amina," he said softly, his voice trembling, "where did you get this food?" She bit her lip and whispered, "From the market, Baba. I helped carry baskets for the shopkeeper. He gave me this in return. I wanted you to eat." I wanted us to eat together tonight. Armin could no longer hold his tears. They rolled down his cheeks as he fell to his knees and held his daughter tightly. His hands shook as he embraced her, and his heart broke with both pain and pride. "My child," he whispered, his voice cracking. "You should not suffer like this. It is not your duty. It is mine. Forgive me for making you carry such a weight." But Amina wrapped her little arms around him and said, "No, Baba, don't cry. You always give me everything, even when you have nothing. I only wanted to give you something back." Armin closed his eyes and held her tighter. At that moment he felt both the deepest sorrow and the greatest love. His daughter's small hands, her sacrifice, her innocent heart, they were stronger than his pain. That night they sat together at the table. The soup was little and the bread was hard, but it felt like a feast. For the first time in many days, both father and daughter ate together, and though Armin's heart was heavy, he smiled at his daughter because her courage was bigger than their hunger. He realized then that even in their hardest times, love was their true wealth. The night passed slowly for Armin. He lay on the thin mat beside his daughter, but sleep did not come to him. His eyes stared at the cracked ceiling, his thoughts heavy like a storm. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Amina's little hands, red from cold, carrying baskets that were too heavy for her small body. He saw her tired eyes, still shining with love, hiding her pain just to bring him food. He turned his face toward her. She was fast asleep, her breathing soft and gentle, her small frame curled under the thin blanket, her lips moving as if she was still whispering words in her dreams. Armin felt his heart ache again. She was only a child, yet she was already carrying burdens of the world. He whispered softly, though she could not hear, "You are my light. Amina, I should be the one protecting you, not the other way around." The next morning, Amina woke early, as she always did. She rubbed her sleepy eyes, smiled at her father, and said cheerfully, "Good morning, Baba." She tried to hide the tiredness in her voice. Armin forced a smile, though inside he felt broken. He sat up and replied, "Good morning, my little one." The day was cold, and the small window let in only weak sunlight. Their home looked as empty as always, but the memory of last night's food still warmed them. Amina quickly prepared herself for school, wearing her old uniform with patches carefully stitched. Her shoes, still muddy from yesterday, sat near the door. Armin saw them and sighed deeply. Before she left, he stopped her. "Amina," he said gently, "promise me something." She looked up at him with her innocent eyes. "What, Baba?" "Promise me that you will not work again. You are too young. Your hands should carry books, not baskets." Amina lowered her head. "But Baba, I only wanted to help." Armin placed his hand on her shoulder. "I know, my child. Your heart is kind, but let me carry the pain. You carry the dreams." She nodded slowly, though her silence told him she was not fully convinced. Then she kissed his rough hand and whispered, "I will try, Baba." After she left for school, Armin decided to find answers. He wanted to know more about what his daughter had done. He left the house and walked toward the market. The market was alive with noise, people shouting prices, children running, carts rolling over the stones. Armin walked carefully, his eyes scanning the faces. Finally, he found the fruit seller who often stood near the entrance. The man was strong with a heavy voice, but his eyes softened when he saw Armin. "Peace be upon you," Armin greeted. "And upon you peace," the seller replied. "What brings you here, brother?" Armin hesitated for a moment, then said quietly, "My daughter, Amina, she came here yesterday. She worked for you, didn't she?" The man looked at him with surprise, then nodded slowly. "Yes, she did. The little one carried baskets for me. I told her she was too small, but she insisted. She said she needed to bring food home for her father." Armin's heart clenched. She should not have done that. She is only a child. The seller placed a hand on Armin's shoulder. "Brother, I could see her courage. She worked hard, though the baskets were heavy. I did not want to refuse her, so I gave her some bread and soup. But listen to me, your daughter has a heart of gold. She is not afraid of struggle." Armin's eyes filled with tears. He thanked the man and turned away, his steps heavy. He felt shame for letting his daughter suffer like this, but also a strange pride that she had so much strength. When he returned home, Amina was already back from school. She was humming softly, arranging her books on the table. Her face lit up when she saw him as if nothing in the world was wrong. "Baba, you're home," she said, running to hug him. Armin hugged her back, holding her close for longer than usual. "Amina," he whispered. Why didn't you tell me? Why did you keep this a secret from me? She looked down, her small fingers playing with the edge of her dress. Because, Baba, I didn't want you to feel sad. I didn't want you to think you were failing. I wanted to be strong like you. Her words stabbed his heart. He lifted her chin gently so she would meet his eyes. My child, listen to me. You are already strong, stronger than I could ever be. But childhood is not for carrying burdens. It is for dreams, for laughter, for learning. Let me fight the battles. You just be my little girl. Tears filled Amina's eyes and she hugged him tightly. I only wanted to make you happy, she whispered. You already do, Arman said, kissing the top of her head. That evening they sat together, sharing a small meal of rice and lentils. The candle flickered as Amina told stories about her day at school. She spoke about her friend who shared a pencil with her, about the teacher who praised her handwriting, and about the song they sang in class. Arman listened carefully, smiling at her joy, but inside his mind was busy. He could not let this continue. He needed to find steady work, something that would give them enough to live without his daughter sacrificing her childhood. As the night grew darker, Arman made a silent promise. Tomorrow, he thought, I will search again. I will not return empty-handed. I cannot let her heart break for my sake. The next day, as soon as Amina went to school, Arman left the house again. He walked through the streets asking for work. Some people shook their heads. Some said, we have no place for you. Others offered small jobs that paid almost nothing. By afternoon, he felt tired, but he did not give up. Finally, he reached the market again. The same fruit seller saw him and called out, Brother Arman. Come here, Arman approached. The man looked at him and said, I was thinking about your daughter. She should not work, you are right. But you can. I always need honest hands here. It is not much, but it is steady. Arman's heart leaped. Truly? You would give me this chance? The seller nodded. Yes, come tomorrow morning. Help me with the baskets, the fruits, and the customers. In return, you will take home some food and a little money. Tears filled Arman's eyes. He held the man's hands and said, Thank you, brother. You are giving me more than work. You are giving me hope. That evening, when he returned home, Amina ran to him as always. But this time, his face carried a brighter smile. He lifted her in his arms and said, My little one, I have found work. We will be all right now. Amina's eyes widened with joy. Really, Baba? Yes, really. Tomorrow I will work in the market. And you, my precious, will only think about your books and your dreams. She clapped her small hands with excitement. Oh, Baba, I am so happy. They shared a meal together, simple yet filled with joy. As the candle burned, father and daughter laughed, their hearts lighter than they had been in months. But even in that happiness, Arman remembered the secret he had discovered, the strength of his little girl, the pain she had hidden, the love that had led her to sacrifice for him, and he knew that he would carry that memory forever, as both a wound and a treasure. The first morning of Arman's new job began with hope. He rose before the sun, his heart beating with both excitement and fear. His body was tired, but his spirit felt alive again. For the first time in months, he had real work waiting for him. He quietly prepared himself so as not to wake Amina. She was still fast asleep under the thin blanket, her small face peaceful. For a moment he stood and watched her, his heart filling with love. She looked so innocent, so fragile. Yet in truth she had carried a strength that many grown men could not. He whispered, Sleep well, my child. Your Baba will make sure you never have to carry heavy baskets again. Then he left the house and walked quickly toward the market. When he arrived, the fruit seller was already arranging baskets of apples, oranges, and bananas. He greeted Arman warmly. Good morning, brother. Are you ready to work? Yes, Arman replied with determination. I will give my best. The day was long and heavy. Arman lifted baskets, cleaned the stalls, and helped customers. His back ached and sweat rolled down his face, but he did not complain. With every piece of fruit he carried, he remembered his daughter's small hands trying to do the same. The thought gave him both pain and strength. By evening, his muscles burned, but his heart felt proud. The seller handed him a small bag of food and a few coins. It is not much, he said, but tomorrow will bring more. Arman bowed his head. This is more than enough. May God bless you. When he returned home, Amina ran to him, her eyes bright. Baba, you came back. She hugged him tightly, smelling the fruits he carried. You worked so hard, I can see it on your face. I am proud of you. Her words made his tiredness fade. They sat together and shared the food he had brought. For the first time in weeks, their table looked fuller. There was bread, a little fruit, and even some cheese. Amina laughed happily, and Armin felt his chest lighten. But later that night, when she was asleep, the guilt returned. He sat alone in the dim light, his thoughts dark. He whispered to himself, "I am her father, yet it was my little girl who worked first. I failed her." He remembered her red hands, her muddy shoes, her small voice saying, "I wanted us to eat together." Tears welled up in his eyes again. He covered his face with his hands, ashamed. She should not have suffered like that. "I should have found work earlier. I am the father. It is my duty." The days passed, and Armin continued working at the market. Each morning he left early, and each evening he came home with food. Slowly their lives began to change. The hunger that had haunted their nights started to leave. Their faces looked brighter and their hearts felt lighter, yet the guilt never fully left Armin's chest. Whenever he looked at Amina, he remembered that she had stepped into hardship before him. She had carried the burden when he could not. One evening, after finishing dinner, Amina brought her school notebook to the table. "Baba, look," she said with excitement. She showed him a page full of neat writing. "My teacher said I have the best handwriting in class." Armin smiled proudly. "Mashallah, my child, you are very smart. One day you will write big books and the world will know your name." Amina laughed shyly. "But Baba, I don't want to be famous. I just want to stay with you and make you happy." Her words, though sweet, cut deep into Armin's heart. He thought, she is still so young. She should be dreaming about her own future, not about making me happy. That night when she slept, he sat again in silence. He thought about his life. He had once dreamed of giving his daughter everything: a good home, new clothes, delicious food, a safe life. But all he had given her was struggle. He clenched his fists and whispered, "No more. I will work harder. I will make sure she never feels hunger again. I will not let her sacrifice her childhood for me." The next morning, he asked the fruit seller for extra work. He carried baskets not only at the stall but also delivered them to homes. His back hurt, his arms trembled, but he did it all. Every coin he earned, he thought of Amina's smile. Weeks passed like this. Amina noticed her father's tired face and asked, "Baba, are you okay? You look so tired." Armin smiled and replied, "I am fine, my child. This tiredness is a blessing. Because of it, you can eat, you can study, you can smile." She held his hand and said softly, "But Baba, I don't want you to hurt yourself for me." He hugged her and whispered, "Every pain I feel is worth it if it saves you from pain." Still, inside the guilt kept burning. Sometimes when he walked home alone at night, he thought about the past. He remembered the days when he had a steady job, when his wife was alive, when their home was warmer and brighter. He remembered promising himself that he would give his daughter the best life. Now he felt he had broken that promise. One rainy evening, as he walked back from the market, his clothes soaked, his shoes filled with water, he stopped under a tree and cried. The rain mixed with his tears, but he did not care. "I am sorry, my little one," he whispered to the empty night. "I am sorry for every empty plate, for every cold night, for every tear you shed. I will carry this guilt forever." But when he reached home, Amina greeted him with her usual smile. She ran into his arms and said, "Baba, you're home. I missed you." Her joy washed away his sorrow for a moment. They sat down to eat, and Amina told him about her school day. She spoke about how her friend shared an eraser, how she got a star from the teacher, and how she sang with the other children. Her laughter filled the small house, and Armin thought, maybe love is stronger than guilt. Maybe her happiness can heal me. Yet deep inside he knew he would never forget that night when she had returned with muddy shoes and tears in her eyes. That memory was carved into his heart forever. It was both his deepest wound and his greatest reminder of love. The days slowly turned into weeks, and Armand's routine became steady. Every morning before sunrise, he left his small home and walked toward the market. His back was sore and his legs ached from the heavy work, but he carried no complaints. His heart carried one thought only: Amina should never suffer again. At the market, people began to notice him. They saw his quiet nature, his honest hands, and the way he never wasted time. The fruit seller who had given him the job trusted him more with each passing day. "Brother Armin," he often said, "you are a blessing. You work harder than 10 men." But no matter how hard he worked, the guilt inside never fully left. Each night when he returned home and saw Amina's happy face, he remembered her muddy shoes, her small red hands, and her tears when she had begged him to follow her home. That memory was still a wound inside his heart. One evening, after finishing his work, Armin sat quietly near the market stall. The sun was setting and the sky turned orange and pink. The fruit seller came and sat beside him. "You look troubled, brother," he said softly. Armin sighed deeply. "I am grateful for the work, but I cannot forget what my little girl had to do. She worked before I did. She carried pain that should have been mine." The seller placed a hand on his shoulder. "Your daughter did it out of love. Do not see it as failure. See it as proof of her courage. And now you are here working hard for her. That is what matters." Armin nodded, though the guilt still lingered. He thanked the man and walked home. When he reached the small house, Amina came running as always. "Baba, you're home," she said with joy, wrapping her arms around him. He smiled, tired but happy, and handed her a small bag of fruit. Her eyes sparkled as she took out the apples and bananas. "Baba," she said, "you always bring something for me, but I don't need much. I only need you." His heart melted at her words. He kissed her forehead and whispered, "You will always have me, my little one." That night they ate together and Amina shared stories from her school. She told him how she helped her friend solve a math question, how the teacher praised her for reading, and how she sang a song with her classmates. Her laughter filled the room, and for a moment the world outside disappeared. But after she slept, Armin sat awake. He thought about her future. She deserves more than this, he told himself. She deserves education, health, joy, a chance to live her dreams. I must do more than just survive. I must give her hope. The next morning, Armin decided to speak with the fruit seller again. After finishing his work, he asked, "Brother, do you know of any extra work I can take? I want to earn more for my daughter's future." The seller looked at him with respect. "You already work harder than most men. But if you want more, there is a shopkeeper down the street. He needs someone to clean and arrange goods at night. I can recommend you." Armin's eyes lit up. "Please do. I will work as much as I can. My body is strong enough." That evening, after his market work, he went to the shopkeeper. The man tested him with small tasks, and Armin did them all with care. By the end of the night, the shopkeeper agreed to hire him. The pay was small, but combined with his market job, it meant more food, more security, and maybe even savings for Amina's school needs. From then on, Armin worked 2 jobs. His days were long, his nights short, but his heart was stronger. Every coin he earned, every basket he lifted, every shelf he cleaned, he thought of his daughter's smile. Amina noticed the change. One night, as he returned very late, she was still awake, waiting. "Baba, you're working too much," she said softly. "You look so tired." He stroked her hair gently. "Do not worry, my little one. This tiredness is my gift to you. Because of it, you will never have to carry heavy baskets again." She hugged him tightly and whispered, "I love you, Baba." "And I love you more than anything," he replied. The weeks continued, and their lives grew slowly brighter. The small house that once felt empty now held the warmth of food and laughter. The hunger that used to sit at their table was gone. The cold nights were softer with blankets they could finally afford. One Saturday morning, Amina surprised her father. She handed him a small piece of paper with drawings and words written neatly. "Baba, I made this for you." He unfolded the paper and saw a picture of a man holding the hand of a little girl. Under it, in shaky letters, were the words, "My Baba is my hero." Armin's eyes filled with tears. He hugged her close and whispered, "No, Amina, you are my hero. You are the reason I stand tall." That evening, as they ate together, Armin looked around their little home. It was still old and cracked, but it no longer felt hopeless. Love had filled the empty spaces. His daughter's laughter had replaced silence. And now, with steady work, there was a ray of hope shining in their lives. Still, deep inside, Armin knew his journey was not finished. He wanted to give Amina more. Better clothes, better books, and maybe one day a better home. He wanted her to walk into the world with pride, never feeling less than anyone else, and so, even with tired hands and aching bones, he whispered a prayer to himself. "I will not stop until my daughter has everything she deserves. Even if it takes my last breath, I will not stop." The night ended with peace in their small home. Father and daughter sat together, the candle glowing between them, their hearts strong with love. The future was still uncertain, but for the first time in a long time, it carried light. It was the light of sacrifice, of hard work, and most of all, of a bond between a poor father and his little girl that nothing in the world could break. The small home was quiet that morning, but inside it was alive with hope. Arman had returned from the market and the shop, carrying fruits, vegetables, and small coins that represented more than money. They represented survival, security, and a future for his little girl. Amina ran to him as soon as he opened the door. "Baba, you're home!" she exclaimed, holding his hands tightly. Her eyes sparkled with excitement, and her laughter, pure and innocent, filled the little house. Arman smiled despite the exhaustion in his body. "I'm home, my little one," he said. He set down the baskets and looked around at their small home. It was still modest, the walls cracked, the roof weak, and the floor cold, but something had changed. There was warmth in the air, not just from the candle flickering on the table, but from the joy in Amina's voice, the bond between father and daughter, and the quiet pride he felt in his heart. They sat together to eat, and as they shared the simple meal of bread, lentils and fruit, Arman watched his daughter. He saw her eyes shining with happiness, her small hands carefully holding the food. He realized that even in the midst of poverty there was love, and that love was far more powerful than any hardship. After the meal, Amina spoke softly. "Baba, can I tell you something?" Arman nodded, leaning close. "Of course, my child. What is it?" "I am proud of you," she said. "You work so hard and you never give up. I want to be strong like you." Arman's heart swelled with a mix of pride and sorrow. Pride because his daughter understood hard work and courage. Sorrow because she should not have to know struggle at such a young age. He pulled her into his lap and whispered, "My child, you are already stronger than I could ever be. But your strength should be for your dreams, not to carry my burdens. Promise me you will always dream big." Amina hugged him tightly. "I promise, Baba." Days passed and life became a careful balance of work, study, and love. Arman continued his jobs, lifting baskets at the market and cleaning the shop in the evenings. Each coin he earned was saved carefully, some for food, some for small clothes, and some for Amina's school supplies. At school, Amina studied harder than ever. She wanted to make her father proud, not out of obligation but out of love. She read books whenever she could, wrote in her notebooks with neat letters, and practiced her lessons with dedication. Her teacher noticed the effort and praised her, saying, "Amina, you are a bright student. Keep working hard and you will go far." Arman heard these words from his daughter each evening when she returned home. He felt pride but also guilt. He thought, "She deserves all the good things, yet she has known hardship. I will make her life better, no matter what it takes." One day, a small opportunity appeared. The fruit seller suggested that Arman could help him organize deliveries for other shops in the town. It meant more work and longer hours, but also more money. Arman agreed without hesitation. He worked tirelessly, sometimes walking long distances with heavy baskets, sometimes staying late at night to arrange fruits neatly on shelves. Despite the exhaustion, he never let it affect Amina. Every evening, he returned home with a smile, sharing small stories about his day, laughing softly at her jokes and asking about her schoolwork. He made her feel safe and loved even though he knew his body was tired beyond measure. Amina, in her small way, tried to lighten her father's burden. She would clean the home, arrange the small things neatly, and sometimes surprise him with drawings she made. One day she handed him a picture she had drawn herself. It was of a father and daughter holding hands, smiling under the sun. Below it, in careful letters, she had written, "My Baba is my hero." Arman's eyes filled with tears. He hugged her and whispered, "No, Amina, you are my hero. You are the reason I fight every day." That night they shared a small celebration. Amina had found a small flower in the garden and placed it in a jar on the table. It was simple, but it symbolized something more: hope, growth, and life. Arman smiled at the small flower and at his daughter. He realized that despite all their hardships, they had each other, and that was the greatest wealth anyone could have. Time passed, and slowly, Arman managed to save a little. He bought a small blanket for Amina, a new pair of shoes, and even a few books. It was not much, but it was enough to remind them both that they were moving forward. The once cold nights became warmer, and the small meals were no longer eaten with worry about tomorrow. One evening, as they sat together by candlelight, Amina spoke softly. "Baba, do you remember the day I ran to you crying and told you to follow me home?" Armand nodded. Yes, my child. How could I forget? That was the day I saw your courage and your love. I will never forget it as long as I live. I was scared, Amina said, but I wanted to help. I wanted you to be happy, even if I had to work myself. Armand held her hands gently. You gave me more than food that day, my child. You gave me a lesson about love and sacrifice, but never again will you carry such burdens. I will always protect you no matter what. Her eyes filled with tears, but they were tears of love and gratitude. Thank you, Baba, she whispered. The days turned into months. Their lives remained modest, but they were filled with hope and warmth. Armand's hard work continued to provide for them, and Amina grew stronger in her studies and in spirit. The bond between father and daughter became unbreakable. They laughed together, shared their dreams, and found joy in the simplest things: a new book, a sunny day, a shared meal. One day, Armand looked at Amina, who was studying under the small window with sunlight falling on her face. She was focused, determined, and full of life. He smiled, thinking about all the sacrifices she had made, and all the love that had carried them through the darkest times. He whispered softly to himself, Life may have tested us, but love has conquered every pain. My little girl and I, we will be all right. No matter what comes, we will face it together. That night, as they sat together, he told her stories of hope, of courage, and of dreams. He encouraged her to imagine a future where she could be anything she wanted. She listened carefully, her eyes shining with excitement and possibility. For the first time, Armand felt a peace he had not known in years. The world outside their small house was still harsh and full of struggle, but inside they had love, courage, and a bond stronger than any hardship. Amina looked at her father and said, Baba, even if we are poor, I feel rich. I have you, and that is enough for me. Armand hugged her tightly and whispered, You have made me the richest man in the world, my child. Your love is my treasure. And so, in their small home, amid cracks in the walls and the simple meals, father and daughter lived with hope. Life would still bring challenges, but together, they could face anything. Their hearts were full, their bond unshakable, and their love beyond measure. It was not wealth, it was not gold nor fame. It was the love of a father and the courage of a little girl. That love had conquered sorrow, had healed wounds, and had given them a future filled with light. Armand often thought back to the day Amina ran to him in tears. Please follow me home. Those words had led him not to despair, but to a life where love became stronger than poverty, hope brighter than sorrow, and their hearts forever connected. And so, they continued hand in hand, facing the world together, rich not in material things, but in the priceless treasure of love, courage, and unwavering faith in each other.